Hi, welcome to Just For You. This is Sonewen fella. I'm so glad and grateful that you could join me once more to be a part of what I've started on YouTube. Without you, there would be no need for me uploading these movies onto YouTube. I just want to let you know that I do appreciate you in every way. And just keep watching, okay? Because this is a true story about a young man, and in the final analysis, you will get to meet this man, this young dude that the story is all about. So in part 4, we ended up talking about his departure from Monrovia during the Civil War. The story, when the story was told that at the Springfield Airport, not too far from around Sinker, there was so much shooting that morning, and he got up and decided to leave the city of Monrovia because he felt that the rebel had infiltrated, and it was time that he leaves before he get killed, because he worked with the Special Task Force, and he was one of those that were being hunted for because he worked with the government. But as it happened, on his way to the old road, because he did it bit by bit, he was stopped and wanted to be taken to the beach where they usually kill those that they felt was against the government. It was the government soldiers doing that, not the rebels. So I just want to remind you of that. On many occasions, he said that they were stopped by the rebels and asked questions, and even told him to speak Liberian dialect that he said he was a part of. But as it was told, he didn't know any dialect, but fortunately for him, they allowed him in. Open up like an envelope where you go in and then they close you up. So they allow people to go in, and then when you get in there, there's no return. So either you get killed or you're successful to head out. So that was the story. But after he was released from jail, I think I mentioned that in part 4, in Kakata, they was given a place to live, and then from there, he met the battle group commander for the rebels, the National Patriotic Front, who decided to take him to Nimba on one of his pickup trucks. And then while they were on this pickup truck going, these guys kept shooting, and it was just terrible. But it happened that they were able to arrive in a town on the way to Bopley, which was the bordering town with the Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast. And while he was there, this very battle group commander, they asked him to follow them to the cassava farm where they did most of the killing. But fortunately for him, while they were on the way there, the battle group commander called back and said that they should bring him back to town, because the young lady who was the girlfriend to this guy is a person who this battle group commander knew very well. In fact, he lived in this man's house in Bopley. That's where his wife was. So some of his concubines were. So he knew him. After she explained, he said, oh, okay, but then I won't kill him. So he considered her as his sister. So he did not. This young guy, he got up in the morning and went to make farm, because not like in America here where you have tractors and all of these equipments. There you have to use your manpower, you have to use your strength, and you have to use a cutlass, as we call it, but here you call it a machete. I hope I'm getting it right. But that's what we had to use there, and we felled the trees, and then you had to clean, burn everything that you fell, and then you have to clean it up before you can, something called scratch the farm. You will use hook and scratch the farm, and that's what he did. And there were times there was no food. They didn't even have any meat or whatever. He had to go and search for something called tabadu. It's opossum. He had to go and carry fire, and there'll be a hole in a buckable hill, and he will put this fire there, and then they will put a bag at the other end of it, so when the smoke gets intense, the animal will try to jump out, when they will jump into the bag. So that way they could find some meat or something, at least for protein or whatnot to eat. But he wasn't very fortunate most of the time. I think it happened, maybe he was fortunate once or twice, but most of the time it wasn't. And it was a risky thing to do, because there could be snakes in those holes, and you don't know, sitting there with that bag, and that thing could come and strike you or whatever it could do to you. But it was so desperate that people did whatever they could to be able to survive. So that was one of the situations while in Bopley. And then after a while, 2 years later, they decided to move to the Ivory Coast when they got in touch with his aunt and uncle, who then was in America. They was here in the States, and they got in touch with them, and they were able to move to the Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, where they live in a home, no chairs, nothing. They didn't even have bed. They had little mattresses on the floor that people slept on. But that's where they lived for about, I would say, 6 years. Things was really, really difficult. The support wasn't forthcoming, and they had to credit. In fact, his girlfriend had to go by the side of the street to sell fra plantain. But there in the Cote d'Ivoire, if you didn't have paper to prove that you should be there, you have a problem. So one time the police came about, calling gendarmerie. They came around, and she had to flee with her little market. That was the end of it. They couldn't do it anymore, and that was one means of getting some support. But it was so hard. It was so difficult. You're a refugee in a country, don't have papers, and you were just living at your own risk, because anything could have happened, and no one will care. But anyways, after 6 years, they wanted to go back to school, and because of the language barrier, they couldn't, so they had to move to Ghana, where they lived for a few more years. And then in the process, they were able to meet up with a missionary called Rav Todd. May his soul rest in peace. He died a few years ago from cancer. He was the one that talked to this young man and his family, his girlfriend, and actually now they were married, because they got married while they were in the Ivory Coast. So now they were legally married, and they had this son who they already had when they were even dating in the Ivory Coast. So now they were in Ghana, and they had nowhere to live. He had to actually beg, plead with a vendor that was selling something called kinky. Sometimes the one that was left over couldn't be sold. That's the one they had to credit, or maybe credit bread. But they also share it with his cousin's kids. So that was something that he had to do for some time. But brothers and sisters, I just want to ask you today to be kind to someone. Kindness is something very important. So find someone today, whoever that person may be, or whoever she or he is, be kind to that person. It is so unique in itself when you love people, because love is something that surpasses all. So I will be stopping here today, and I will be going on to the next video 6, and I'm going to explain how they were able to leave Ghana for the United States of America, where he now resides. And so I would like to say thank you. Please subscribe, like, share, and also hit that bell. I love you very much, and I promise you this will be a story that you will never forget. Thank you, and God bless.